Yep. So once again, good morning, everybody, and this is another Cute for Teams, Champions Using Teams Effectively with Ricardo and Stacy and you. And we're here to answer your questions and otherwise just geek out together on Teams. Quick glance at the list here, and I don't think I see. I think it's usual crew, but if not, um, come here with any questions you had, put them in chat, come off mute. Very informal, and we can rock and roll. Um, I what I came prepared to talk about, not prepared. Prepare is a strong word, but what I was going to talk about was loop, because I know the last few sessions that has come up. Seems like you all have been interested in some demo. So I can certainly talk about that. And in fact, if you have any, so I know Loop is whether GCC or commercial, it's still rolling out, right? I mean, even as I was doing some things with it, there's still things labeled preview, and one of my other tenants still is on like a wait list for this and that. So let's kind of start on that. Start with that it's not a fully baked all out kind of a thing. I've got different things going on internally than I do in my demo tenant, than I do in my personal tenant, so, and then I do in my GCC tenant. So we'll keep that in mind. But if you have been wondering about Loop, trying it out, looking at things, and you got any thoughts or questions, I would love to see those in chat, or come off mute. Maybe we can try it out, and things like that. But before I jump into all of that, I will open it up. If anybody came in here with a burning question they wanted to ask Stacy, who knows everything. But yeah, any burning questions from anybody, chat or off mute. Okay.
Ricardo, I'm so glad this is recorded, since you acknowledged how much I know. I'm going to share that with my 14-year-old.
There you go. That's it. Cool. All right. Well, loop wise, let's show a few things. So we're here in my commercial tenant. So I'll just preface with that. Loop shows up in Teams, in a couple places. So for instance, here in I'm not a chat with myself, but let's say in a chat with Nestor here, I have the Loop button there, and it can start up a chat there. Start up a loop there, I should say. That same loop, if I go over to, let me go back. Let's see, if I click this here, as you say, open in browser, and I was already there, but it's bringing up that same loop kind of in a full page. So you can imagine any other user that might be interacting with that could see it however they want it, here or in its original place. And even as I go back, you can see this button talks about all the different places where it may be. In this case, it is here in chat. It's also, they're saying, in an email, and we can find that, I believe, where did I do that? I don't remember where that email is, but I trust it that, is it this one? No, that I did create an email. Oh, actually, let's see if I can get to it from here. There we go. Let's open up the email where that thing lives. It's probably able to open it up because I was the one that created the email. So let's see if this works. But that's good that it has that button that kind of lets you see all the places that it may be, because that list can get long. I think currently the current list is of places where you can do loop is Teams, Outlook, Word on the web, and Whiteboard. So that button commercially, yeah. So that button is useful. Now it's still spinning there, but I will say, even from a whiteboard perspective, if I come in here and I want just a blank one. I guess, where is the new? Let me see. Oh, did it? It's already there. Okay, here we go. Go back here, grab a copy, and paste it here. So this is whiteboard. Same, the thing is still showing. If I go back to Teams and do the locations, looks like it hasn't updated yet, but I would expect to see a whiteboard in this list as well.
Yeah, and I love that because of I don't know, stick-to-itiveness is not a word, but the way that it persists is just so exciting to me. I think the fact that it doesn't matter where you start a loop from, but it will retain and share and be collaborative regardless of where it surfaces is the really exciting part of loop.
Yeah. And so especially as someone like a SharePoint lover, and, I've been doing real-time collaboration with Office, forever, as many of us have. One of the questions is why loop versus any of the other things where I can do real time. I mean, if you've been around a while, you know that I could open a Word or an Excel or a OneNote and kind of get this, well, maybe not OneNote, but I can get the same view of like everybody's cursors and bobbleheads and all that on the page. I can get that in Word and Excel and PowerPoint. So why wouldn't I use those instead? But what hopefully is a little obvious is how quick and easy. I mean, there's one click to have this collaborative real-time environment is a lot different than several clicks to open one of those Word files and then not to really even get those embedded within the chat like this is, and certainly not to have them surface in all these different areas so easily.
Having Teams provision the permissions as you do that is really cool too. I mean, if you wanted to create a Word document, throw it into a SharePoint document library, and its needs are different than the other documents in that library, then you have unique permissions and things that you just have to govern differently than if you do it right where you're already collaborating and Teams is handling that permissions. I just think that's cool.
Yeah.
Good point, though, because you could also just click that plus at the top and do a document that's also going to have those permissions provisioned. But I think it's just so flexible to start it right there from the chat.
Right. And then I think where it really starts to shine. So it also shines in that, easily seeing who did what comment and when. And then the different templates that you have the ability to put in here. But let me go over to, since we're Teams fanatics, where I think it really shines and where we are also getting a taste of the, what do you call it? The notes, collaborative notes feature. So I'm going to start up, actually, I'll fire up a meeting that I already had going, I think. Am I in? I'm still in the right thing. Let's fire up this meeting. I knew that was the wrong one. Let's fire up this meeting, old meeting. And the ability within chat to pop this in, as you can see, I've already popped one in there. I actually want to just discard that one. So you see you got the loop component there. And if we click that, we got a lot of different options. So the one kind of basic scenario would be we want to take notes in this meeting and, and make them collaborative. And that is essentially what the collaborative notes feature, which is not yet in GCC and maybe not even rolled out across the board, is doing is notes area with a loop in it, and an area for some task assignments and things like that. So even before you get the full experience of the collaborative notes feature, once you're able to put just a loop in chat, you're like halfway there from that perspective. So imagine this just being a collaborative area where people can start to do notes, as well as add mentions, for the people in this meeting as well, and then, assign tasks and whatnot. The other interesting scenario here, I thought, was if we open this up, you'll see Q&A. So if I add that, imagine people putting their questions here, and then maybe putting another question, all this stuff, right? And then somebody else coming in and answering, maybe multiple people answering, right? So, you know, there is certainly a Q&A feature in Teams, but this is another way to do it, right? And a little more ad hoc way to do it. And I know in GCC, the Q&A feature has a dependency on Yammer, which is going to be a challenge for some. This might be a workaround. Of course, we're waiting on this as well in GCC. But I thought this was just an interesting feature, and I certainly could have probably done this myself with just a basic loop, but it's nice that it was one of the configured templates. And as I look at the others here, so standard tables, but voting, certainly we've got polls, but, to be able to do voting, progress tracker, just some things that are already pre-configured to, have you fill stuff in. And so one, it's cool to do that easily in the chat. We're all collaborating on it here, but the other cool thing is after the meeting, these days our chats, they live in the chat with the meeting. This is some chat work that now lives on its own, or really could live wherever. So maybe you want to follow up with all the meeting participants via email. Well, you can do a up-to-date and or live view of that work that got done here, and pop that right in that email, or some chat message or something like that. So the fact that it travels well is good. I've always said, a lot of times the knee-jerk reaction is OneNote for meeting notes, even in a Teams meeting. That, depending on the other people in the meeting, that doesn't always travel well. Really, you need certain permissions. You need access to the whole notebook, all of that kind of thing. So I always say that OneNote, which I am a fanatic of, but it doesn't travel well when you're dealing with sharing with multiple people, depending on the situation. So I thought this was cool. Of all the places where it can be placed, a loop within a meeting chat can be a pretty useful one. I often do meeting notes in a chat post in chat, and I will just continue to hit edit to add new things, which is kind of cool. My post continues to grow as the meeting notes grow, but nobody else can add anything to my post, and they can't see my new additions until I, hit enter again, right? So even as I'm typing the next bullet, they've got to wait till I hit enter again before they, can see it, versus literally seeing me type, and then of course being able to type their own notes as well. So definitely some advantages there. So as I was going through this and kind of thinking about different scenarios, the meeting chat scenario, to me, and maybe to us, given that we're all Teams fanatics, seem to be the most compelling to me. I don't know if you're a big whiteboard fan, that's certainly compelling too. I could imagine this thing being worked and growing and changing while some other whiteboard activity is happening over here. That could be pretty cool. So I haven't seen that scenario in real life, but I could imagine that being useful too.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on any of that, questions or feedback? And I'm open to criticism as well. I've certainly heard plenty of that. I don't get why would I use this kind of thing, or stuff like that. it's a safe space.
Seeing some of the meeting tracking and note taking does make me think about the intelligent recap in Teams Premium, and maybe that will fill a gap as well, with maintaining those notes, or at least, intelligent recap is going to do some cool stuff in that regard. So perhaps taking real-time meeting notes isn't necessarily where Loop is going to shine for someone who already has Team Premium, but
Yeah.
I could see it certainly shining in, using it as a stage for collecting that key information from the participants of the meeting, in writing. Perhaps if there's like in our scenario today where we may have the mics disabled, where we want to focus folks in to provide any feedback through the Loop, versus, other things. Are those just screenshots you took and dropped in there?
Yeah, it's just
That's
kind of
cool.
showing the versatility of it, being able to handle screenshots right from my clipboard.
That was awesome.
Yeah, making links. I mean, all the things you would expect from a modern interface are all there. So it's not just
that was slick.
Yeah, it's not just plain black and white text. It's some good stuff here.
So I looked out in the roadmap in anticipation of Melody's question, and it looks like June 2024 is when the Loop in the Teams chat is destined for the GCC.
And one question I get often, I have gotten often, is kind of where does these all live per se? Now, on the support page for Loop, it does mention a workspace for Loop, and I have seen that one page, titled as Loop, where all your loops are visible and able to be opened and edited. That even in this commercial tenant isn't there. For instance, you saw me open up the Loop here, and it's just that one loop, not my other loops. You can see its location is Microsoft Teams chat, which I believe would be by way of the dot fluid component, or even this dot loop component. I'm assuming dot loop is the newer one. It used to be dot fluid. But the ones that I have put into Teams chat are living here. But the support pages do make reference to a workspace. So
I could show that if you'd like. I'm on the early ring now that my role is a little different. So
yeah,
let me just give you the visual there. So this is Loop, right? And note it says preview because this is like even pre-commercial release. But we've got the workspaces here for the couple of existing loops. One being the get started one that came out of the box that helped train a new user to Loop on a couple of cool things. And you can see those are set up with tables and things to spark some interest, even feedback area, and some next steps where you can go out and record some of the things that you tested, and you just get back to those workspaces by clicking on the loop in the top left. So there's some navigation awesomeness that they're layering in to help us find the stuff that we're creating and storing. So you mentioned it. I figured I'd go ahead and do the show there.
Yeah. Yeah. The other little anecdote I would give from personal use, when it was early on, obviously we got it a little early, and as we were trying it with our internal teams for real work, not just proof of concept, but real work, people would fire up a loop, and it took a second for folks to get used to it. Like, it's kind of like someone would start one up and nobody would realize that this is a collaborative thing, so it was almost like just a normal post. They were just reading what person X had put, as opposed to contributing more to it. So it took some nudging, so there'll be some, when you talk about adoption of any new thing, they'll it'll take some time for people to kind of get used to it, to maybe even make it their go-to in terms of quick collaborative notes, in a chat. And I don't know about you all, over the years in general with real-time collaboration, it is not, there are some that just don't vibe with it, right? The idea of people seeing my work as I type it, sometimes that is not comfortable for everyone. So there may be some folks that never really get on board with that from a collaboration perspective. So, but I think it will be very useful down the line, especially as it matures. In fact, I was even looking on my mobile, my Surface Duo. Stacy and I happen to be Duo geeks, if you didn't know, and so
which is a little bit of a sad place to be right now.
I know,
but
I know.
love them. I love them. I love them.
I'm gonna keep my Duo and my Zune forever. No.
I'm a 2-screen-aholic now.
Yeah. But just from a mobile perspective, I saw it's still in preview, but I did see a Loop app on mobile. So, kind of imagine being able to have your mobile phone watching this real-time component updating, without, clicking in a lot of different places or things like that. So yeah, when it's fully baked, I think you'll see it prevalent everywhere, just like you would expect from an app like that. So, we had been promising, let me share my screen again. We had been promising to talk a little bit more about Loop in this call. And so I thought I would, just do that there and give you a little taste of that. Any thoughts, comments, questions?
I've fielded a couple of roadmap questions in the chat and pasted a couple of those roadmap references for anybody who's tracking Intelligent Recap for GCC with Teams Premium. And let's see, what was the other one? Oh, right, Loop, June 2024. And for anyone who's curious, Copilot is yet to be determined for the government cloud. Oh, Melody, that's awesome. I know that your county has been looking forward to test driving Teams Premium for some time, so I'm glad that's there and you can experience it firsthand. Yay, that's cool.
I will also say I am, for those in the government space preparing for Copilot and AI in general, I am seeing more and more webinars and other events talking, specifically to public sector, preparation, governance, all of that. So, that is not lost on Microsoft at all, that there will be a lot of governance. And actually, being in the space, I'm actually seeing some government customers who are already producing documents, about their spin and on governance and their special interest groups they've created to start to. So I like seeing public sector kind of get started with thinking about it, knowing that it's coming. It's whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to deal with it. That's a bad way to say it, but the users are probably going to want it, and so kind of figuring out what your guardrails are going to be.
Right.
So yeah, so this meeting that we're in will get a lot more exciting the more of those things get rolled out into Teams. We'll certainly have plenty to talk about there. And I'm even thinking about Teams Premium. I need to start thinking about which parts of those we could be demoing or talking about in the future as well. That's a little further along. So I'm trying to think parts of that in my demo environment would be kind of ready to go. So we'll think about that for future sessions. Good stuff. Anybody else? Cool. Right. Well, like I said, this, we do this every 2 weeks. Always come if you got a question or you just want to hear us geek out on things. That said, put this on YouTube in the playlist, which is full of 103 other episodes if you ever want to peruse. But other than that, I guess I'll give you a couple minutes back for your day. We will meet up
happy
again
Friday.
next time. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out the blog for more content.